Today we're going to be doing a video that I feel like I've been talking about doing for a very long time. Today we're going to be testing out the Natasha Denona eyeshadow base, and how I'm going to do this is I'm going to compare it to my current Holy Grail primer, which I'm basically out of. This is the Smashbox Lid Primer. I have been loving this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer on my right eye, which is my good eye, and then I'm going to put my Smashbox primer on my bad eye. I don't know, I just have a harder time blending on my left eye than I do on my right eye, so I'm going to go ahead and apply these, and then we're going to go ahead and do an eye look with these, obviously using the same colors on both eyes, and then see how the eyeshadow primer performs compared to my Smashbox primer. And then I'm probably not going to do a wear test because I never have problems with my eyeshadows wearing as soon as I get them on my eyes. They usually stay that way during the day. So if I do for some reason have any issues, I will just leave a pinned comment or something like that, or just leave it in my description box if I do notice any difference in wear with these two. But this is just going to be like the application process and just seeing how it ends up looking in the end, whether or not one side is maybe brighter than the other, or we'll just see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and apply these. So like I said, I'm going to put the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer on the right eye, or my right eye I should say. And I'm just going to go ahead and blend this out. So as for the consistency of this, I would say it reminds me a lot of the P. Louise base, but it's not as opaque. It's not as, not pigmented. Pigmented is not the right word that I'm looking for. It's not as, I don't know what word I'm trying to say here, but it doesn't have as high coverage. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I know there's a better word for that, but sometimes my English is just not perfect, you know? So if you know the word that I'm thinking of, please do let me know, because I feel like there's a better word for that. Opacity? I don't know. You get what I'm saying though. I hope you get what I'm saying. I'm gonna go ahead and put the Smashbox primer on the other eye here. And I definitely will say that the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer is on the lighter side. So if you are of a darker skin tone than me, maybe it would be a little bit too light for you. It just depends on how you like your eyeshadow primers. Personally, I don't like my eyeshadow primers to be like white. I prefer them to be more like my skin tone. So I would say that this is definitely like on the verge of being a little bit too light. Like I find the Anastasia primer to be too light for my liking. And somehow I have a hair here that I just cannot get rid of. I don't know how that even ended up on my eye. Alright, let me just go ahead and put on a little bit more of this primer right here. So you can probably see the difference already, that this side is definitely lighter than this side. So we're gonna go ahead and dip into the first shadow that I want to use here. So I've actually pulled out some singles that I want to use. Have a couple here, and I also want to use my Festival palette by Juvia's Place, mostly just because I want to use the red. So I'm first gonna start off by taking my crease color, and for that I'm going to use Bratty by Colourpop. This is just a orange. And just from my experience with using the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer, I've had pretty good luck with it, and I found it to be a very good primer. So I'm very curious to see how it's going to just stack up to the one that I've been using lately. So I'm just going to place this in my crease here and then go ahead and start blending it out. I think that this eyeshadow primer is a lot more just tackier than my Smashbox primer. I find my Smashbox primer to dry down pretty quickly, whereas this one definitely stays more on the tackier side. Now I do go in with eyeshadow pretty quickly. I don't really like to wait for my eyeshadow primer to dry because I want it to be kind of tacky. So I'm sure if you were to wait a little bit, it could definitely dry down, but I also find it that if I wait too long, it creases on my eyelids, and then I have to go in and tap out the creases, and I just find that to be really annoying, and I don't like having to do that. So that's why I like to go in with my eyeshadows right away here. So I mean, this is building up very, very nicely. It's looking nice and pigmented. I'm really curious to see how this is going to look compared to my Smashbox primer, because I feel like my Smashbox primer is maybe going to make this look a little bit darker. So let's just go ahead and do the same on this eye here. And just right off the bat, I don't feel like my shadow is sticking as well to my Smashbox primer here. It's definitely showing up pigmented, but I feel like I need to use more shadow to get the intensity that I'm looking for. But I do think that the shadow is blending out a little bit easier on the Smashbox side, which, I mean, it does make sense because, like I said, it does dry down a little bit quicker than the Natasha Denona one does. But I don't really feel like either of the sides are more intense than the other. It's just that the color is looking a little bit different just because of the color of the eyeshadow primer. But so far I feel like these are performing very much the same in terms of just like the opacity of the shadows and everything like that. And I'm also going to go ahead and just start winging this out, as well as pulling down to my lower lash line. but obviously I don't have any eyeshadow primer on my lower lash line, so the performance of the shadow doesn't really matter. So looking at this up close, I do think that they are looking very, very similar. The only thing that I'm really seeing is just that the colors are a little bit different, just because of, like I said, the eyeshadow primers are not the same color. And I feel like that's the only thing that's really making a big enough difference that is worth pointing out. So I'm next going to go into my next shade here, which I don't think that this shade is really going to make a huge difference since I already do have color in my crease here, but I'm going to go into Izalfa from the Festival palette by Juvia's Place, and I'm going to use that to deepen up my crease with. So I'm just going to start by placing this first in the outer corner of my eye, just packing this on very heavily, and then I'm going to go ahead and start bringing that through my crease here. And I'm just using the same brush that I was using with the first color. This is the Sigma E42 brush. This is one of their newer brushes, and I just think that it's perfect for someone who has very small hooded eyes like myself. So I'm just keeping this a bit lower down than I did the orange, as well as just blending it into the orange. I'm going to take this down to my lower lash line as well, just like tighter to my lashes. So like you could see, I didn't have any issues at all applying this to the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer, and I felt like it gripped onto the primer very nicely. But again, I do feel like the red is looking a little bit just lighter than it is on the Smashbox side. Like, I feel like it's more true to color on the Smashbox side just because the primer is a little bit darker and closer to my skin tone. And I'm also just going to go back into that orange because I felt like I lost a little bit of that with the red. So I'm just going to go ahead and run that over everything where I first put down the orange. And then it's time to go in with the shimmer. So first off, I'm going to use one of my Glaminatrix shadows. This is in the color Peacock. And it's kind of like a blue-black duochrome kind of thing. I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's almost like a gunmetal blue. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of how I would try to explain it if I had to. So I'm going to go ahead and take that on my MAC 242 brush here, and I'm going to give that a spritz of Fix Plus, and I'm going to put that in the outer corner of my eye and just kind of use this as my deepening shade. So I'm going to go ahead and place that right here. And I'm trying to keep this kind of low down. I don't really want to blend this into my crease too much, but I do want this to be like a deepening up shade. So I am taking it all the way out to the outer corner of my eye here. And then I'm just gently taking the edge of this brush and just kind of tapping it into my crease, just so I get a little bit of a blend here. Because I don't want it to be like a sharp line. I just want everything to kind of blend seamlessly. Now, I don't think it's really going to make a difference with the eyeshadow primer with the shimmers. At least from my experience, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. It's mostly the mattes and like the crease colors that are going to be impacted by the eyeshadow primer that you use, especially when you spray your brush like I always do. And I feel like it wouldn't really be fair to be testing out these shadows in a different way because this is how I always apply my shadows. So I want to make sure that I do that in the, you know, testing out eyeshadow primers as well, because this is like how I always would do my makeup. And I do almost feel like it's looking a bit brighter on the Natasha Denona side, or just more opaque and more pigmented, and it's looking a little bit more sheer on the Smashbox side. I don't know if that is a coincidence or if it's the lighting or if it's just me kind of seeing that and it's not coming across on camera. I'm really not sure, so I wouldn't put too much thought into that, but just kind of like a small observation here. I feel like I need to build up the shadow a bit more on this side. Oh, and I completely forgot that I was going to use some black in my crease as well, but oh well. Next up, I'm going to go into one of my, what are you? You are from Looxi. This is Prom Queen, so it's a lighter blue. I'm going to put that on basically the rest of my lid, I think, and then I'm going to put a little bit of this kind of greeny yellowy shadow in my inner corner. And I'll have all of these shadows linked down below in my description box if you want to go check them out. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the same brush here and just place that next to the shadow that I just put down and just blend them in together. Ooh, that is a beautiful shadow. I don't even know if I've used this before. I feel like every time I go into my single shadows, I don't remember which ones I've used and which ones I haven't, because when I make singles orders, you know, usually I'll order quite a few shadows and I don't always end up using all of them when I receive them, and then I kind of forget about them, or they're just like in my collection for when I need them, because I'm trying to fill the gaps that I have in my singles collection when I make orders, so I don't always get around to using them right away. But this is a beautiful shadow. Wow, that is so wet looking. And again, I do feel like the shadows are performing a little bit better on this side. Like, are you able to tell? I probably will know if you're able to tell when I look back at the footage, but I just feel like it's looking, I don't know, just better on that side. At least on my lid. I almost feel like my crease is looking better on the Smashbox side, and my lid is looking better on the Natasha Denona side, but it's just, it's such a small difference that like no one's going to really notice, so it's not a big deal at all. It's just I'm trying to nitpick here and trying to figure out which one I like better. But so far I really like both of these primers, and I don't feel bad at all about switching to my Natasha Denona primer now and not repurchasing my Smashbox primer, because the Natasha Denona primer has more product in it, so it really just makes sense that I spend my money on that one instead, because they are very similarly priced, which is crazy, honestly, because I feel like you get almost double the amount of product in this than you do in the Smashbox one, which is just insane. So just to finish up here, I'm gonna go into the last shade, which is also from Glaminatrix. This one is called Bank. I love the shadow. It's one of my favorite kind of greeny golds that I have. And I'm just gonna place that in the rest of my lid here, so basically just like in my inner corner. And I'm trying a new brush here, which is not really picking up the shadow that well, so don't judge the shadow because I'm using a brush that I have not yet used. This is a small brush from Linda Hallberg, and I don't know how I feel about the Linda Hallberg brushes that I got. I mean, don't get me wrong, like the quality is great, but I don't love the shapes of the brushes. This one is fine, but it's just not picking up the shadow very easily, so that's kind of annoying. But it is very nice and precise, which is great. I feel like this could be like a good cut crease brush. This is the 301. And I'm not completely satisfied with this. I do want something orange just on my lower lash line here, so I'm going to take another one of my Glaminatrix shadows. I can't help it. These are just the ones that I keep gravitating towards. This is Soda Pop. It's just a orange shimmer, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on the inner part of my lower lash line here just for an extra pop. I do think that this color might be discontinued though. I'm not completely sure, but like I said, I will link the ones that are available for you if you wanted to pick up any of these as singles. So I'm gonna go ahead and just place that on the first part of my lower lash line here. And I think this is going to be it for the eyeshadows. I'm gonna finish off the rest of my eyes, put on a lipstick, and then I'll come back and tell you my final thoughts on this eyeshadow primer. So here is the final look, even though I do want to do a little bit of a change here because I do want to take a little bit of a matte black shadow. Just put that in the outer corner. I just feel like something is missing. For lips I use Seven Springs by Colourpop. This is one of their cream lipsticks, but I'm going to go ahead and just take a little bit of a matte black shadow here on a small brush. I just want a little bit. I feel like I just need something darker in my outer corner here, so I'm just going to go in with this and pack a little bit of this on my outer corner here. And just gently bring this through my crease right where I have the darkest of these shimmers. I don't usually go in with the mattes over shimmers, but I just feel like it's going to make a big difference here. And I feel like you can even tell like just how big of a difference that really made, because I just feel like it tied everything together. And I just feel like that looks so much better. So that's going to be the completed look. As for the eyeshadow primer, I think that the eyeshadow primer is really, really good and I'm excited to keep using it. Do I think it's better than my Smashbox primer? I think I would say that they're on par. Honestly, I'm really happy with both of these. I'll probably not repurchase my Smashbox primer again ever, just because there's so little product in here. There's like 2 grams or 2 milliliters, which is just nothing. and this one has way more, so I'm probably going to keep using the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer for now. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Let me know if you've tried either of these primers and how you feel about them, and if you have tried any of these two, which other primers would you compare them to, and have you found anything that is better? I would love to know, because I'm always looking for eyeshadow primers, so please let me know your experiences down below, and if you have any that you don't think that I've tried, please also let me know, because I would love to try out more. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one.